Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Kevin Smith. Thank you very much for joining the webinar tonight on the 3 easy step process to optimizing your thyroid function so you can lose the weight, get more energy, and lift the brain fog. Before we get started with our presentation, I have a couple of quick housekeeping rules that I want to go over with you guys. First of all, I'd like to ask you, please turn off all of your distractions. Please turn off Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and games and everything else so you can kind of focus on this content. We're going to be talking about thyroid stuff for about 35, 40 minutes. So I just like to ask for your undivided attention when we go through this because it's going to be life-changing information and I don't want you to miss anything. The second thing is I'd like to ask that you please interact with me. It's a lot more fun for both of us if you play with me. So I'm going to have the ability to ask questions in the chat, and I'd like you to take advantage of that. And I don't want to just be a talking head up here. I want to have some back and forth with us. So I'd like to ask that you please interact and play with me. And the third thing is I want you to learn a lot and have fun. And that's the most important thing. Otherwise, what are we doing here tonight? So I want to thank you and say congratulations on taking the time to join this workshop. I know you have lots of other options to do. You can spend time with your family and you can be watching your TV shows and stuff like that. The fact that you're here tonight tells me that you're wanting to get serious about fixing your health problems. And so if you have a question for me, please put it in the chat in the webinar that's available on your screen, and I'll take a look at that and see what's going on with that. And then I'd like to also ask that, what do you want to get out of this webinar? Put that in the chat too. Like, what specific questions did you have for me? And I'd be happy to answer those at least sometime during this webinar tonight. So the fact that you're here tonight, it's going to tell me a couple of things. That first of all, it's going to tell me that you want to have normal thyroid function. It's going to tell me that the drugs that you've been maybe taking have failed to produce the results that you want. And the doctors that you've consulted with have failed to really figure out what's wrong with you and give you the help that you need, want, and deserve. And you know that something's not quite right. You're sick and tired of feeling this way and you want some answers. So speaking of answers, if you have some specific questions, go ahead and put it in the chat section, and I'll periodically take a look at that and try to answer them as we go through this webinar together. So let's talk about who this is not for. This is not for anybody if you're not serious about improving your health, or if you're not willing to take action to fix your problem, or if you're only interested in a quick fix or whatever the insurance covers, or if you're only going to listen to the same doctors that have already failed you. So this is my big promise tonight. Today, I'm going to reveal what's possible if we're able to remove the blind spots that prevent you from losing that stubborn weight, having all the energy that you want, getting rid of the brain fog, and eliminating the imbalances that are interfering with your life tonight. So if you stay until the end of the webinar, I'm going to give you a free bonus gift. And we're going to also give you a customized solution for you to have the sustainable results that you want so you don't become another statistic with this. So let me try to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Kevin Smith. I am a board-certified doctor of chiropractic. I am board certified in integrative medicine, functional medicine, and clinical nutrition. I've been in practice for 21 years, and I'm a published author and a public speaker, and I'm a consultant to hundreds of doctors all throughout the country. And my mission is to transform the lives of people that have been suffering with hypothyroidism using a combination of lab testing and science-based nutrition. So Doug from Monroeville, Pennsylvania, wrote that I now feel normal again. My energy is up. I get a full night's sleep. The brain fog is completely gone. And for the first time, I'm actually starting to lose some weight. I feel like a completely different person. If you have thyroid problems, you need to try Dr. Smith. So I see that the chat is really lighting up tonight. Diane wrote, can I heal thyroid? Started with Graves, has iodine pills, 2 thyroid storms, now hypo. Can you flip between hyper and hypo? Can I deal with a partial thyroid on levothyroxine, weight gain, asthma? Thank you. And Adriana wrote, I lose a lot of hair. I take 75 micrograms of Synthroid since 20 years ago. I'm from Venezuela and I want to heal my thyroid. So we're going to talk about those types of problems tonight. We're going to talk about why the medications oftentimes don't help your problems, and why you absolutely can switch between hyper and hypothyroidism. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Again, if you have any more questions, please feel free to enter that into the chat tonight. Kathy from Pittsburgh wrote that once I consulted with Dr. Smith, he put me back on a drug-free, natural approach to bring my body back to a neutral state. I'm finally back to my old, healthy, feeling great self, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you, Dr. Smith. And Mark from Pittsburgh wrote that because his approach to hypothyroid problems is different, I feel better than I have in 20 years. I've lost weight, my energy is back, and I can think clearly. If you have a thyroid issue, you must try Dr. Smith. He is an amazing doctor. So before we begin our journey together, I want to share with you a personal problem that I personally experienced almost 2 decades ago. Earlier in my career, I had no idea how to fix thyroid problems. See, I'm a chiropractor, and chiropractors were trained how to fix musculoskeletal stuff like back pain, neck pain, headaches, things like that. But we're not really trained on how to fix complicated metabolic problems like thyroid disease. And so let's talk about some of the symptoms of hypothyroidism to start. So people that suffer with hypothyroidism, they're going to suffer with weight gain. Even if they try dieting and exercise, it's still not coming off. They may have some brain fog. They walk into a room and then they can't remember why they walked in that room. Does that sound like you? Or maybe they have no energy and they suffer with fatigue. So at the end of the workday, they don't have any more energy left in the tank to go play with their kids or go for a walk or go to the gym or do fun people stuff. They have gastrointestinal problems such as constipation or diarrhea, bloating, gas, distension, abdominal cramping. They have dry, brittle hair, or their hair is just falling out in clumps in the sink when they brush their hair. They have the loss of the outer 1/3 of the eyebrow. They have maybe some cracked or weak nail beds in their fingers or their toes. They suffer with aches and pains just constantly. Then maybe they have some nervousness or some irritability, anxiety and depression. Maybe they have poor libido, sleep problems, or heart palpitations. So let me ask you this question. If you could put this in the chat, I would appreciate it. What symptoms have you personally been experiencing that you want to get rid of? And the second question is, what is the most frustrating part of having these problems? What has been bothering you about having these problems? A lot of people have these and they just don't know what to do about it. And they don't know where to turn, or they go to their primary care doctor, or they go to an endocrinologist, and they may not have any answers for them either. So the third question is, how do these problems affect your mood or your self-esteem or your daily outlook? Or how does it affect your relationships? And why do you feel that it's important to fix these problems and put them in the rearview mirror? So Diane wrote that I have symptoms of hypo, anxiety, panic disorders, awful, and heart palpitations. It's very common to have heart palpitations, especially if you're taking thyroid medications, because maybe they're giving you a little bit too much, or maybe it's not working exactly as it was intended. So people that have thyroid disorders, it affects their brain. So it can affect, it can cause things like depression, anxiety, nervousness, depression, all these types of things. All right, so the thing is, people were coming to me with the hope that I could fix their problems. And what I was actually searching for a completely different solution for these problems, but I stumbled upon something. And it was a discovery that ultimately changed my professional and personal life. In 2003, I made this discovery where I learned how to combine laboratory testing and clinical nutrition. That's something that you don't see a whole lot. You may have gone to the doctors and they ran some blood tests, and maybe you went to a nutritionist and maybe he gave you some supplements or tried to clean up your diet a little bit, but it's very rare to see the two of those intertwined. And so I was finally able to find the hidden root cause of what's causing all these different mysterious symptoms, and then finally put an end to them without drugs. Isn't that kind of a cool concept of if you could eliminate the drugs in your life? So Janice wrote that this is Janice. I have weight gain, brain fog, no energy, gastrointestinal aches, irritability, and poor libido. And is it possible to heal? My doctor in Venezuela says no. Well, I don't mean to make your doctor sound wrong, but there's nothing that they can do, but that doesn't mean that there's not something that somebody else can do. So we're going to talk about exactly how, for the last 20 years, I've been fixing these problems. So my journey to become a medical detective entailed learning everything that I could about lab testing, and then learning everything that I could about clinical nutrition. So it's a journey that's taken me about 21 years to accumulate this knowledge that I have, that I want to share with other people about how I can first of all find your problems, and then how I can fix your problems by resolving any kind of metabolic imbalances that you may have in your body. So Sandra wrote, weight gain, heart palpitations, depression, and mood swings, all very common symptoms of hypothyroidism, Sandra. So we'll give you a way to fix all that stuff a little bit later on in the webinar. Please don't go away and stay tuned to what we have to talk about. So the result of combining laboratory testing and clinical nutrition is that people were finally able to lose the weight, and more importantly, to keep it off so they're not on a yo-yo that's incredibly frustrating for people. They were able to lift the brain fog and think clearly and have good, clear thoughts and have good memory about stuff. They were able to eliminate gastrointestinal problems, putting an end to the annoying diarrhea and constipation, bloating, gas, distension, all that kind of stuff. They were able to have as much energy as they had since they were teenagers. They were able to stabilize blood sugar problems, stop their hair from falling out, healing their nail beds, getting a good night's sleep, and ending the nervousness and irritability. So the bottom line is that you're going to feel normal once again. You're going to be able to find and remove all these different symptoms that have been plaguing you and causing all this misery, so that you can feel normal once again. So how exactly will this benefit you? It will benefit you because you'll have less reliance on medications. Imagine that. Imagine having to take less pills every day. Wouldn't that be awesome? Having a better self-image and better self-esteem. If you're able to lose the weight and keep it off, you're gonna feel good about looking at yourself in the mirror again. You're gonna feel comfortable participating in group photographs again, and just feel better in your own skin. Having more confidence, being more productive. Being more productive may lead to that big promotion at work that you've been working towards. Having peace of mind and the confidence knowing that you are finally able to put these things to rest that have been plaguing you for so long. People have told me that they have improved relationships when they have less anxiety, less irritability, less of a hair trigger. They're able to get along with their mate better. They're able to get along with their kids better. They're able to get along with their friends and their coworkers better. And most importantly, they have a brighter future that is with less reliance on medications. So a lot of times people are thinking, it might work on some people, but not on me, or my issues are too severe, or I'm stuck on all these medications, or my problems, they've been going on for far too long, and these problems are just a part of aging or bad genetics, or I just don't know where to start. So does that sound like you? For a lot of people, it does. So I'm gonna show you exactly how to fix these problems tonight so that you can put all the stuff in your rear view mirror. So ultimately, there are three keys to success with this program. Number one, you must be coachable and willing to take some action. Number two, you must focus on progress. You don't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect, nobody's perfect, but I want you to take imperfect action. If you can take imperfect action and move towards a goal, you can make steps towards a brighter future. And number three, you must commit to never letting self-doubt get in the way of having what you truly want, need, and deserve. So you can do this. The past does not equal the future. I don't care if you've had thyroid problems for 20 years or for 10 years or 5 years or 2 years or 6 months. It doesn't matter. We're going to put an end to it, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that tonight. So I want you to imagine life without limits. It's a lot closer than you realize, but you have to take action. If you don't take any action, you're not going to get anywhere. So I want you to take some action to fix these problems, to resolve them, to put them to bed. So let's talk about the problem again, hypothyroidism. The problem is that people have weight gain, they have nervousness and irritability, or they just feel jittery, or they have sleep disturbances, they have gastrointestinal problems, they have low energy or no energy, they have maybe fertility problems, maybe they have abnormal periods, or they have a problem getting pregnant, or they just have a hormone imbalance with estrogens and progesterone. They may have some brain fog. They may have some nail and hair problems or skin issues. Maybe their skin's too dry, or maybe it's too oily. Maybe they have some depression and anxiety or aches and pains. All of this stuff can be completely eliminated with this program. So ultimately, thyroid problems, they can be resolved. The one person from Venezuela who told me that her doctor said that they cannot, that's a very common thing to hear. It's very common for medical doctors to say, I'm sorry that there's nothing that I can do about it. You're just going to have to live with it. It can't be resolved or fixed. I'm here to tell you that yes, it can, but you have to use the right type of approach. You just masking the problems with medications is not the way to fix it. Imagine if, for example, you had a lawn with dandelions growing all over your lawn, and you you cut your lawn with a lawnmower. Dandelions are gone, right? But what happens when it rains? The dandelions are going to come right back up. And the thing is, you can't just mask your symptoms with a drug. You actually have to look at the root cause of what's driving this problem and address it at its root cause. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope it does. So let me share with you some things that you can do right now, right this second, to improve your energy. There's two things. Number one is I want you to drink more water. That's not Coca-Cola and sweet teas and energy drinks. That's just regular, just plain old boring water. The solution to pollution is dilution, right? So the way that you flush out toxins and the way that you take care of that stuff is by drinking at least 64 ounces of water every single day. See this bottle right here? This bottle is about a 16.9 ounce bottle. So if you drink 4 of those per day, you will have all the water that you need to energize your system. Remember, it's there to flush away toxins and to hydrate yourself. So make sure you're drinking at least 64 ounces of water every single day. And the second thing that I want to share with you that's going to help you to boost your energy is to stop consuming so much sugar. I want you to replace any kind of sugary snacks with anything that does not have refined sugar in it. So that would be things like salad stuff or nuts, or maybe even a piece of healthy protein, or maybe an egg or something like that. But if you just drink more water and you also cut back on the amount of sugar that you're putting in your body, you will instantly have a lot more energy. And that right away, that's worth the price of the admission of this webinar. Okay, so this is the 3 easy step process to recovering your thyroid issues. Number 1, we have to review your medical history. I have to take a look at what's going on with you so I could see what's going on. I can see what you've already done, and maybe look at what labs you've already had done. All right, so that's important for me to be able to take a look at what's going on in the past. The second part of this is that I need to check any kind of imbalances that you might be having in your body via some lab testing. So the only way to really determine what's going on with any kind of objectivity or taking objective measurements is to do some lab testing. If you want to make any kind of improvements with your life, you have to take measurements, right? Because you have to make sure that you're able to move the needle. So we have to check for any kind of imbalances via some lab testing. And the third thing is that we need to implement a corrective plan of action, a corrective treatment plan. And so, again, I have to take a look at your medical history and your background. Number 2, we need to check for any kind of imbalances via lab testing so we can take some measurements and see what's going on. And number 3, based on whatever the labs say, that will guide me as to what kind of corrective care plan that you're ultimately going to need to fix your problems. All right, so let's talk a little bit about thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is kind of what drives the ship. So there's 2 types. There's T3 and T4. Some of you may have heard of these already. T3 is named because it's got 3 iodine molecules attached to it. T4 is named because it's got 4 iodine molecules attached to it. I know it's rocket science, right? But that's the bottom line. That's how they're named. So T3, or triiodothyronine, has 3 iodine molecules. T4 has 4 iodine molecules. Between these 2, T3 is the active one. That's the one that your body needs to function right. So if you're making T4, you need to ultimately convert T4 into T3 by lopping off one of those iodines. We're going to talk about where that takes place a little bit later. So the thyroid hormone is made in the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is a small butterfly-shaped endocrine gland that sits about right here in your neck. It's about 2 inches long, and it makes thyroid hormone. And it's under the control of the brain and a specific part of the brain called the pituitary gland. And the thyroid gland, in addition to making the thyroid hormone, it controls and regulates a bunch of different processes in your body, such as regulating your core temperature. It also helps you to manage your menstrual cycles and a bunch of other types of things that are important for normal health. Hypothyroidism is a condition where you're not making enough thyroid hormone, or you're not transporting it throughout your body correctly, or it's not being absorbed into your cells properly. Hypothyroidism means you not have enough thyroid hormone. It's too low. And this condition represents about 97% of all thyroid disease. Now, there's also a condition called hyperthyroidism, also known as Graves' disease, and that's a lot less frequent for that to happen. It only happens about 3% of the time. But most of the time, it's hypothyroidism, meaning you don't have enough thyroid hormone being made in the gland, or maybe you're making plenty of thyroid hormone, but it's not able to be transported throughout your body and to reach your cells. That's another problem. And number 3, maybe you're making plenty of thyroid hormone. It's distributing throughout your body normally, but it's not interacting with your cells properly. So what does thyroid hormone do? Thyroid hormone is kind of like an accelerator pedal in a car. If you step on the gas, what's going to happen to the car? It's going to speed up, right? If you take your foot off of the gas, it's going to slow down or stop. Thyroid hormone does the exact same thing. Actually, it's T3, but this does the exact same thing as stepping on the gas of a car. It hits the gas pedal, allowing the cells to do their job. And the thing is, every single cell in your body has a receptor site for thyroid hormone. Everyone without exception. So every single cell is ultimately under the control of your thyroid, right? So all of your blood cells, your white blood cells, your red blood cells, the platelets, the sex cells, the ovum in females and the sperm in males, blood, muscle cells, the cells that line your gut, neurons in your brain, the bone cells or osteocytes, and even the liver cells. They're all under the direct control of the thyroid gland because the thyroid gland produces the thyroid hormone. The thyroid hormone circulates throughout the body and it latches on to a receptor site on the cell wall. And when it does that is it makes the cell run. It's like the Energizer Bunny. So let's say, for example, you don't have enough thyroid hormone latching on to your brain cells, the neurons in your brain. What do you think are some of the symptoms associated with that type of condition? How about brain fog? How about anxiety or depression? What if you have problems with your muscles in your body? It could cause cramping, right? It could cause aches and pains or fibromyalgia type symptoms. Maybe you're having a problem with your gut. Maybe you have hypothyroidism in your gut. That could cause things like constipation or a slowing down or problems absorbing your nutrients. What if it's a problem with your ovum? Maybe you're having a problem getting pregnant or problems with your menstrual cycle. So ultimately, we can trace back a lot of different problems to thyroid disease. So one of the tests that the doctors will do is called a TSH, or a thyroid stimulating hormone test. TSH is a chemical that's produced in the brain and the pituitary gland. And what this stuff does is it leaves the pituitary gland in your brain and it goes throughout your circulation and it ends up in the thyroid gland, and it makes your thyroid gland make thyroid hormone. The thyroid stimulating hormone makes your thyroid gland work right. So if you don't have enough TSH, or if you're maybe making too much TSH, that could be a problem, couldn't it? But this is the primary test that's done by medical doctors. And for a lot of doctors, it's the only test that they're going to do for you. So the normal range for thyroid stimulating hormone is between 1.8 and 3.0. If you're between 1.8 and 3.0, happy day, you're doing great. But what if you're out of that range? What if you're below 1.8 or above 3.0? Now you're going to start to have some problems. So hypothyroidism is classically diagnosed if your TSH is above 3.0. I know it sounds a little bit counterintuitive because above 3.0 means you have hypothyroidism, but that's kind of how it works. TSH kind of has an inverse relationship with T4. So when TSH goes up, T4 is going to go down. When T4 goes up, TSH goes down. So they're kind of backwards with each other. So the standard of care for thyroid treatments in America is kind of the same thing that they've been doing since the 1960s. And it's using radiation, medication, and surgeries. And while the names have changed over time, the methods of diagnosis and treatment haven't changed hardly at all. So you're getting like 50-some-year-old technology here. This is what you're going to get when you go to a primary care physician or an endocrinologist. They kind of do the same thing. So the standard tests that they're going to order for you is the TSH, and maybe if you ask them nicely, they'll also include a free T3 test along with that. But a standard thyroid panel includes all of these tests. It includes in addition to the TSH and the free T3, it also includes a free T4, a total T3, a total T4, T3 uptake, reverse T3, TPO antibodies and antithyroid globulin antibodies, and also a TSI test to check for Graves' disease. If you're not getting all of this stuff that's listed on this page, you are not getting a full thyroid panel. They're only able to really take a look at the part of the pathway, not the entire landscape of what's going on. So they measure the TSH and the T3, and they just assume they understand the rest of it. So there are 6 patterns of hypothyroidism, 6 causes of why you may be suffering with low thyroid symptoms. And they are, number 1 is primary hypothyroidism. And that is a condition where your thyroid gland in your neck is not making sufficient amount of thyroid hormone. That's number 1. Number 2 is pituitary gland dysfunction. So if you go upstream a little bit from the thyroid gland up to the brain, if the pituitary gland is not able to make sufficient amount of TSH, that's cause number 2. That's called pituitary gland dysfunction. Number 3 and number 4 are conversion problems. Do you remember about 10 minutes ago, I said that your body needs T3, but you also make T4. The T4 has to be converted into T3 in order for it to work right. So it has to lop off one of those iodines to make it into T3. That takes place in the liver and in the gut. So if you have under conversion of T4 into T3, or if you have over conversion of T4 to T3, you're going to suffer with hypothyroidism. So if you have a problem with your liver or with your gut, that's going to cause problems with you to make plenty of T3. Number 5 is called binding globulin dysfunction. A globulin is a type of a carrier protein. So thyroid hormone is kind of lazy. It doesn't want to do anything on its own. It wants to hitch a ride on a carrier protein. So if you're not making enough thyroid binding globulin, you're going to not be able to distribute your thyroid hormone all throughout your body. And that test is called a T3 uptake test. And it's also directly related to your estrogen levels. So if you're using, say, cosmetics that have excessive estrogens in them, that's going to affect your binding globulin. Maybe you're postmenopausal and your estrogen levels plummet. That's also going to cause a problem with you making enough binding globulin in your body. And number 6 is called thyroid hormone resistance at the cells. So when you have that pattern, you're making plenty of thyroid hormone, it's being distributed throughout your body normally, but it's not attaching to your cells correctly. Now, here's the most important part of this slide. Only one of these 6 patterns is going to respond to medications, and that is primary hypothyroidism. The rest, number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, are not going to be affected whatsoever by taking medications. I don't care if you're taking Synthroid or levothyroxine, Cytomel, Armour, or any other medication. It doesn't matter. Only one of the 6 patterns are going to be affected. What that means is that you only have a 17% chance of your thyroid medication helping you. You have an 83% chance of it not fixing the problem whatsoever. And all of these problems can be completely identified through proper lab tests. So let's talk about the thyroid. When you have hypothyroidism, remember that means that you're not making enough thyroid hormone, or it's not being distributed through your body, or having resistance at the cells. So the way that we diagnose it is to do a TSH test. The normal level is 1.8 to 3.0. When you have hypothyroidism, in about 80 to 90% of the time, this is due to a condition called Hashimoto's autoimmune hypothyroidism. So what an autoimmune disease is when your white blood cells of your immune system start attacking and destroying your body tissue. And it's actually mistakenly attacking your body tissue because it's not designed for that. Your white blood cells are supposed to be protecting you from infections. Maybe you have a virus or a bacteria or a parasite or something. That's what the white blood cells are supposed to be doing. But when they start to attack and destroy your own body tissues, that's called an autoimmune disease. There's over 100 different autoimmune diseases that we know about. And the thing about autoimmune disease is that you can't cure it. There's no cure for an autoimmune disease, but it can be put into remission. But if this affects the thyroid gland itself, that's called Hashimoto's disease, okay? So 80 to 90% of the time that people have hypothyroidism, they've got Hashimoto's disease. It's not everybody, but it's almost everybody. And ultimately, this is not a thyroid problem, it's an immune system problem. So let me ask you a question. Who's managing your immune system? Nobody, right? Okay. So with autoimmune disease, this can be diagnosed through some very easy blood tests. Most medical doctors don't even test for it. And even if they did, it's not going to change the treatment plan, which is just used Synthroid or levothyroxine and stuff like that. I remember that's only going to affect 1 out of the 6 patterns that we talked about. Autoimmune disease is completely incurable, so you can't flip a switch and turn it off. But while you can't do that, you can dim it down. Kind of like a chandelier switch in the dining room that dims down the lights. You can dim down the attack so that it goes completely into remission and it's no longer causing mischief. Okay, so let's get back to this model here. So we have to do a thyroid antibody test. That's a TPO and antithyroid globulin test. And when you do these tests, there's only going to be one of 2 possibilities. It's either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. So if it's positive, then you have to identify what's going on with your immune system. So we have to identify any kind of immune imbalances that are going on. In your immune system, there are 2 divisions of the immune system. There's the Th1, and then there's also the Th2. The Th1 is the immediate response division. That's the part that goes in there and they kill everything that's causing harm to your body. They're kind of like the Marine Corps. They just go in there and they just kill everybody. Th2 is the memory part of your immune system. If you remember from high school biology, if you've ever been exposed to a germ, your immune system is supposed to be remembering what that germ looked like so you can never get it again in the rest of your life. But what's going on is that the Th1 and the Th2 are supposed to be balanced with each other. So they're supposed to be in harmony. But when one of those 2 divisions gets too dominant and the other one gets too recessive, that's what drives autoimmune disease. That's what causes a lot of these types of problems. So we have to we have to check for this using a 6-day immune system quiz, and then rebalance these so that they are balanced with each other. The Th1 and the Th2 are in equal outputs, and that's how you put your autoimmune diseases into remission, and they're no longer going to cause a problem in your body. So once you do that, the next thing that we have to do is we have to identify triggers. What's a trigger? A trigger is something other than autoimmune disease that could be causing your hypothyroidism. So there are a number of triggers that we know about that are pretty predictable. There's anemia. That's a problem transporting oxygen on your red blood cells. Unstable blood sugar, maybe insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. That's the number 1 stressor in the body, so that absolutely has to be controlled. Number 3 is adrenal gland dysfunction. And by that, I'm talking about the stress hormone cortisol. When cortisol is surging in your body, it's going to cause 2 things. It's going to cause belly fat production, and it's going to cause brain fog. So we got to get your cortisol levels under control. Number 3 is chronic inflammation. That's going to cause also problems with your cells. That's the leading cause of pathology in the body. It's the leading cause of cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, pulmonary problems, and yes, hypothyroidism. Hormone imbalances. And by that, I'm talking about the female and male sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. We have to take measurements and find out how they're doing and make sure that they're in balance with each other. Gastrointestinal dysfunction. That's a big topic. It can include things like having leaky gut syndrome or poor absorption of your nutrients, or it could include constipation, diarrhea, a problem called dysbiosis. That's an abnormal balance of bacteria. That's why a lot of people take probiotics. Food sensitivities, that could also include food allergies and food intolerances. Stealth infections are problems that have been infections you've been carrying with you. You don't even know that you have. And chemical sensitivities, problems when you develop headaches or whatever by smelling some perfume or something that is obnoxious to you. So the way that we identify these triggers is by testing for the triggers. And the lab testing comes in the form of blood, stool, saliva, and urine. So what we do is we take a sample of these of your different parts of your body, the blood, the saliva, things like that. We send it to a laboratory and they take an objective measurement so we can see exactly where you are and what kind of triggers that you may have that could be contributing to your thyroid issues. And then the 4th step is to remove the triggers. Once you've put your immune system issues into remission and you've identified and removed all the triggers, guess what? You're going to feel a heck of a lot better. This is the blueprint right here. So only proper testing and interpretation of those tests will uncover the triggers. So proper thyroid testing is essential, and thyroid dysfunctions are a sign of metabolic dysfunction, and proper testing is essential. So we'll do some blood tests. We'll check for a full thyroid panel that includes the 9 tests that we talked about, a comprehensive metabolic panel, blood sugar markers, anemia panels, a complete blood count, inflammation markers, vitamin D panels, check for hormones, check for cortisol and male and female hormones, food allergies, check your stool for a normal amount of healthy bacteria versus abnormal bacteria or a yeast infection, and checking the Th1 and Th2 divisions of your immune system to see how they're doing, to see exactly what's going on. So let's show you a couple of case reports. Sandy had, for 15 years, she had been suffering with weight gain, low energy, brain fog, and she had an intolerance to exercise. Every time she exercised, she would just get fatigued and she would just get sick. So I did some lab testing and I found and treated her for the following triggers. Sandy had been dealing with food allergies. She had leaky gut syndrome, adrenal fatigue, and blood sugar problems. And then within 6 weeks of my treatment plan, she was able to lose 20 pounds. She had no more brain fog. She had better energy, and she was able to exercise like she wanted to before. Lynn had been suffering for 24 years with GI problems such as diarrhea, constipation, weight gain, poor energy. And I found and treated her for the following triggers. She suffered with Hashimoto's disease. She had leaky gut syndrome and food intolerances and chronic inflammation. So she was a hot mess. And after I treated her, within only 8 weeks, we restored normal bowel movements. She was able to lose 25 pounds. And she had more energy than she's had since she was a teenager. Tracy had come to me. She'd been suffering with 8 years with hair loss, insomnia. She had a problem falling asleep or staying asleep, brain fog, muscle aches and pains, and joint aches and pains. And I found that she had blood sugar imbalances, gut problems, and chronic inflammation. And within 4 weeks, only 4 weeks, she was able to sleep through the night. The brain fog was gone, as was the chronic muscle and joint pain. This could be you too. So how would your life be different if you no longer had the problems that have been bothering you for all this time? And what would you be able to do if you had none of those symptoms anymore? So why don't you go ahead and put that in the chat of this of the panel here. What would you be able to do if you didn't have any of the symptoms anymore? And as a follow-up question, why do you feel that it's important to fix this problem now? Susan from Castle Shannon, Pennsylvania, wrote that his methods of treating thyroid is different from other physicians. Rather than taking more and more drugs, he found certain foods that I was eating, which was the cause of my problems. His methods are different, they work, and I couldn't be more happy. I feel better every day now, thanks to Dr. Smith. This is truly life-changing care. So if you're having thyroid issues at all, this is my recommendation for you. I recommend that we do a strategy session together. And a strategy session is where we get together to discuss your problems. I have you start off by doing a medical questionnaire so that I can do a deep dive into your health and find out what is ultimately the root cause of your problems that will guide me to which lab test that you may need to order. We'll do a detailed health history, and we'll look at all the kind of imbalances that you may be having that's causing problems in your life. We'll look at your lifestyle and your overall nutrition, and look at what you're eating, what could be causing these problems. And I'll give you a root cause analysis so that we can put an end to this misery once and for all. I'll give you an action plan, and I'll give you some lab recommendations of what you can do for this. Okay, so Diane said that I'm 72 and 100 pounds overweight, with anxiety, panic, and asthma. And Sandra said she wants to sleep through the night. And all these things are very possible. As long as if you can figure out the root cause of your problems, you can get to the root cause of this, you can fix it. So that's the thing. That's what I'm offering you is a strategy session so that we can look for the root causes of your problems and put an end to this once and for all. So again, it starts off by doing a questionnaire and a deep dive, doing a detailed health history, looking at things like your lifestyle, your levels of nutrition, so that I can give you a root cause analysis, and then an action plan, and then a lab recommendation so that we can figure out where exactly you're having these problems, so we can get very specific with this. Okay, that's where we get started with this. The strategy sessions are priced at $197. For tonight only, I'm going to knock $100 off. So for tonight only, if you book it tonight, it'll be $97. So the goals of the strategy session is, number one, to identify the root causes and barriers to your health. Number two is to create a personalized plan that will work for you. Number three, to help you to avoid the trap of chronic disease. When you go down the pathway of chronic disease, a lot of times there's no coming back. When's the last time you ever heard of a person getting off of blood pressure medications or thyroid medications or whatever else? If we can figure out what's causing this problem, we can put an end to it. We can alleviate your dependency on medications. We'll offer a drug-free solution that will work for you, will give you your life back, and will give you hope and clarity. This is what you're going to take away from getting the strategy session done. So what comes next? You want to make the decision to take some action and handle the investment and book your session. The link for the strategy session is in the chat. So in the chat, I put a link in there. If you click on that link, you'll come to a page that looks like this. it'll say book your $97 strategy session with Dr. Kevin Smith. These calls are to help you discover what's causing your thyroid issues. And all you have to do is select, do you want to do this by phone or do you want to do this by online or video chat? So this is my guarantee for you. I guarantee that I will give you my undivided attention and I will really listen to you and your problems, and I will give you my very best. This is a 20-year accumulation of my education, expertise, experience, and knowledge. So today, what can you get for $97? You can go out to eat for a family of 4 at a decent restaurant. You get 2 tickets to a Major League Baseball game. You can get 2 Phillips at a gas station, and really that's kind of 1 at this point. Or you can have the opportunity to transform your health and your life by doing a strategy session with me. So I want you to hop on that link, book your strategy session, and let's get your life back. As a bonus gift for booking a strategy session tonight, I'll include this book. This book is called a 5-day thyroid recovery weight loss plan. We'll email that to you. To get that book, just register for the strategy session, and we'll rush that right over to you. So we can agree that you have a chronic issue and it's not going to go away on its own. If it would have done so already. You want some help, but you're not getting the results that you want from your doctors and from the approaches that you've tried before. And you want to make a change, but you don't quite know where to start. You want to start by doing a strategy session with me so that I can look at your problems and I can help you to figure out the root causes of them and then put you on a corrective path to putting that in your rearview mirror. It's ultimately time to change your life. This journey is going to require both of us to do our jobs. It's your job to reach out for help, and that begins with doing a strategy session. And it's my job to listen, to guide you, to give you a plan of action that will change your life. So if you're drowning and I throw you a life preserver, are you going to grab it? Yes, you will. The same thing with this. I'm giving you an opportunity to fix this problem. Take me up on this. Book your strategy session tonight. I thank you very much for participating with my webinar tonight. I'm going to open the floor to a little bit of question and answer. And I see that this is lighting up tonight. So let's see, we just got a text from one of our people that are on audio. Her name is Mary, and she says that my issues are weight gain, my hair is falling out, and I have no energy. What are your recommendations for me? Okay, Mary, so we need to explore your medical history so that we can find out what clues are there as to what's the cause of this problem. Following that, I will be able to determine which labs that you may need and then put you on the path to fixing this problem. I got another message from Susan, and she said that I have no energy. I have multiple GI issues, insomnia, frequent aches and pains. Do you think it could be caused from thyroid issues? Yes, absolutely, Susan. All of these symptoms that you just described without exception are all symptoms of hypothyroidism. And the good news is that it can all be completely corrected, but we have to start somewhere and start looking somewhere. But it starts with a strategy session, and let's do that first and then figure out which labs that we need to fix your problems. Adriana says, I do not have a medical history. That's okay. You can just book your strategy session with me and get going with fixing this problem. And Cheryl said that, how do you determine if the issue is Hashimoto's or not? Could it be something else? So Hashimoto's is ultimately determined by doing a simple blood test. It's a thyroid peroxidase enzyme and antithyroid globulin peroxidase enzymes. So we need to get a confirmation of Hashimoto's so that it's going to ultimately influence our clinical decision making. And once we have done that, then we can put an end to this. So does anybody have any other questions for me before we finish up tonight? Okay. Very well. Well, thank you very much for being with me tonight. I enjoyed hanging out with you, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Let's book our strategy sessions tonight, and we'll get going with trying to help you with your thyroid. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you guys all learned a lot, and I look forward to helping you. Have a great night. Take care.